Okay, so girls, we're on to lesson 3. Today's lesson is Irish women in politics. So you can put that as your heading, Irish women in politics. And in your book, it is the bottom of page 361 and the top of page 362. So last week we were talking about Irish women and the types of work that they did in the 20th century. And then we also talked about the difference in education as the century went on. So how towards the end of the century, women had more access to education. So today we're going to talk about politics, and we're going to talk about how their access to politics changed. Remember, girls, for this topic, the whole kind of key area that you need to focus on is change. So over the course of the century, how did women's lives change in terms of different themes or in different areas? So today we're going to be talking about the Irish Women's Franchise League, and that is part of the Suffragette movement. So we're going to be talking about the Suffragettes today. Okay, so girls, this is an advertisement poster that you can see here for the Irish Women's Franchise League. Okay. So just looking at that poster there, have a look at all of the information. And what do you think the Irish Women's Franchise League is all about? Okay. So, in case you didn't get it there, there's a bit of a clue at the bottom of the poster. And this is in Dublin. Wicklow Street is in Dublin. And one of the speakers is Christabel Pankhurst. So you might have heard of the Pankhurst sisters. They were very famous. They're English. So she's guest speaker for this event. Okay, so the suffragettes then. The meaning of the word suffrage is women seeking the right to vote. Okay, so you can take down this slide. Women seeking the right to vote is what suffrage is, or the suffragettes are the people involved in the suffrage movement. So in the early 1900s, women in Ireland were not allowed to vote. And it was the same for women in Britain as well. The Irish Women's Franchise League was set up in 1908 to campaign for the vote. Okay, so franchise basically means, in this instance, franchise is being allowed to vote. So 1908, they set this organisation up to try and campaign to get women the vote. Now, both John Redmond and Edward Carson. Now, we've heard of both of these a couple of months ago when we were doing our nationalism and unionism in Ireland. So John Redmond was the leader of the Home Rule Party, which was the biggest political party in Ireland at that time. And Edward Carson was the leader of the Unionists, which was the kind of biggest organisation in the north of Ireland. Both of these people were against giving women the vote. Okay, so a lot of the politicians and a lot of the powerful people in both Britain and Ireland were against women having the vote. So just in your own minds there, can you think of a reason why they wouldn't want women to have the vote? Okay. Now, there's a little video you can see here on the bottom. It says video. I'm going to post the link to that video there on the Google Classroom. It's about 3 minutes long, and it's an academic talking about the suffrage movement at the beginning of the 20th century. Okay. Okay, so this suffrage movement then, they were a little bit violent in some of their acts, and when you watch the video that I just mentioned a second ago there, she'll give you some information as to the kind of things that women got up to in the suffrage movement. Okay, so you can see from this, these are some newspaper pictures or drawings or cartoons, whatever you want to call them, okay? And this will give you some idea as to what the suffragette movement was like or how they were portrayed in the media, okay? So just looking at both of these posters, first of all, think of that question. How do you think the suffragettes were portrayed in the newspapers, or what was the opinion of them? And secondly, what do you think, what kind of things do you think they did to try and get their opinions across? Okay. So the suffrage movement took off very, very quickly, and it was a strong, powerful movement. So this is a map from 1914. Now, girls, I tried everywhere to find the key. You know that always a map should come with a key, but I don't know from this map. I couldn't find out what the shaded areas meant, and I couldn't find out what the difference was between the squares and the circles. But what I did manage to find out was that this shows the different suffrage groups within Ireland. So you can see that they were in the north of Ireland and the south of Ireland. And that there were 3,000 members, or more than 3,000 members. And this map was published in the Citizen newspaper, which was one of the big newspapers in Ireland at this time. Okay, so this will tell you what the suffrage movement, how far it spread and how important it was. Okay. Now, when World War I broke out in 1914, things became very different for women in Ireland, because now they were no longer seen as just being useful for working in the home and for cooking and cleaning and minding children. Now they had another purpose. Now, we did learn before that not a huge amount of Irish men went off to fight in the First World War, but we did learn that about 100,000 people did, okay, because they were encouraged by Redmond to go. Now, because then 100,000 men left Ireland to go and fight in the war, there were jobs that needed to be done in Ireland. And so women took up some of these jobs, okay? They got jobs in factories, in offices, and in banks, okay? So these are the kind of jobs that men only would have been working in. And you can see there's a poster there, the Irish Citizen. Again, this is an Irish newspaper. Votes for women now, damn your war. Okay, so again, this is published at the time. You can see there, it's just at the beginning of the war. So it's basically saying that forget about the war, women need their votes now. Now, after the war in 1918, because of the contribution that women made, because of the work that the women did during the war, as a mark of saying thank you or a mark of respect, it was decided to give women in Ireland and Britain the vote, okay? But not every woman got the vote. Only women over 30 were given the vote, okay? So today, anybody over 18 can vote, but back then, in 1918, only women over 30 were allowed to vote. And again, going back, why do you think this was? Why didn't they give it to 19, 20-year-old women? Okay, what was the view of women 100 years ago? How were women seen? What was the opinion of women? Okay, so girls, you can just take down that little slide there in your notes as well. And so that's all I'm going to do on the slides for you today. But what I'd like you to do for homework for me is on the Google Classroom, I have put a mind map about the suffrage movement. So you can either type on it, or you can draw it out in your copy and just handwrite it. So I want you to do that. And then the second thing I want you to do is I want you to research any woman that was involved in the Irish suffragette movement. Okay, I'll put another PowerPoint onto the Google Classroom, which gives you some information about some women, but it's basic information. I'd like you to go and do a little bit more research, and I'd like you to just write me some facts, some information about an Irish woman involved in the suffrage movement. So the explanation and the details for both of those tasks will be on the Google Classroom, okay? And just make sure that you have all the notes written down here from this PowerPoint, okay?